Live right now. And we are live. I'm super excited. I want to give it like 2-3 minutes for people to join before we get started. But Charlie Silver, it's awesome that you're here today. Permission.io. I'm excited to have you be the first person to help me launch this series of doing my AMA series, and so it's really exciting. And now here we go. We're going live, and we're already live, which is great. And now everyone can retweet it, and I'm going to pin it to my profile right now, so everyone can see us. And we're starting to get all the live viewers already, and we can start to see the our AMA questions. If people have any questions, we're talking about big data, we're talking about tech, the Untold Stories AMA series with Permission.io. We're going to be talking in a second about, I want to start prefacing now since people are watching. Mr. Charles Silver, thank you for joining to talk about specific topics and talk about how your projects and the different companies and tools in our industry that are bringing us forward. And today we're talking about like data, and I want to talk about I'm going to preface it with what the problem was and how the crypto industry promised to fix that and how we're still not there yet. And by talking about that, what I'm saying is our data. We're uploading content to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter right now. We're live streaming. This live stream, now Twitter owns it, like all this content and data, we're giving it to them for free. And what are we getting in return? We're doing all this work. We're uploading our pictures. We're putting our whole lives. And these companies go out and they sell our data, they sell it, and we don't really get much back in return. The crypto industry promised us with things like the Brave browser, the ability to earn money from like ad revenue. 2017, 2018, there were a lot of token sales, and we still haven't gotten to that point yet. What is still the issue, and how can we solve that using this block? Can we solve it with blockchain technology?
Well, Permission.io is dedicated. Everything that we do is all about helping individuals get compensated for their data. And it's very complicated, and it's difficult to deliver on that promise. And we've been at this for several years, using our technology and doing beta testing, understanding user experience. One of the biggest issues is security. Solving the security problem has been an enormous undertaking, and making it a delightful experience to compensate people while deploying the proper security.
What do you mean by security? So we're talking about what type of data are we talking about specifically?
Well, we're talking about all of our personal data. I mean, not just our individual profiles, but all of your linkable data, your financial data, your health data, even your Facebook and your Google data. What we're doing in our technology allows people to link to that data and then grant permission to whoever they want to engage with. And typically they're going to grant permission when they're compensated. And that's what we're building, is the ability for advertisers and merchants to engage with individuals who volunteer to see their ads because they're being compensated.
What is like the gap or the break between what the crypto industry has been trying to do with why we don't have that now? Like, why aren't we seeing that mass adoption with things like the Brave browser or whatever?
Well, Brave is, listen, I have nothing but good things to say about Brave, but it's a very different approach than Permission. Brave is a browser that collects no data. They don't have any data to connect people to advertisers. The ads are random. Advertising is all data dependent, and typically the best data wins. And that's why Facebook and Google and Twitter are so effective. But Brave has no data. So we're the opposite. We're all about allowing individuals to give permission to their data that already exists. Link to your Facebook data, link to your Google data, and then allow people to have grant permission and be compensated.
This could be a stupid question, Charles. By the way, everyone named Charlie and Charles are my best friend because we have the best names. Stupid question. How do companies like Facebook, Google, TikTok, how do they make money? A lot of people don't really understand. How do they make money when they're offering us these free apps and platforms? Like on how are they making money? If we can understand how they're making money with our data, we can understand it from the other side.
Well, it's all about targeted advertising. Their applications are terrific. They engage users. Search, it's a great product. Facebook, the social media product, it's a great product. I mean, they have billions of users. And every time you search, Google collects that data. They know more about you than you know about yourself. They know more what you're likely to buy than you even know. Facebook, all the people you're connected to and all of their activities and all of their conversations. This allows for great targeted advertising. And the internet, the fuel of the internet is advertising, and it's all about targeting. But we're trying to change that model by putting the users in control of their data, and they're the ones that get compensated versus advertisers paying Facebook, Google, Twitter, etc.
I understand that completely, and I want to get into the hows, into the specifically how. Like, walk me through what a typical experience would be like.
Well, you sign up on permission.io. It's easy to sign up. Username, password, two-factor authentication. You create a small profile. Then every day when you come back, there'll be product videos that are targeted to you that compensate you to watch. Hopefully those target videos will lead you to buy something. But, and we're seeing great, great response.
How do
So,
you how do you prevent this data from being mass farmed? You know, all my data, you're starting to bring all the data together. You talk about the security. How do you prevent like one company from just getting all of it?
well, and that's the problem with big tech. That data is centralized. We're creating a decentralized platform so the data lives where it already resides. Our technology is going to allow people to link to their Facebook account and give us permission to look at it. So your Facebook data stays with Facebook. Your Google data stays with Google. Your
Is there
health
a
data.
record of everyone who's viewed like my data? Will I be able to see that?
Good question. I'm not really sure about
It's a
that.
cool
But
idea. I was
yeah,
just
it is a cool idea. But again, you only grant permission to who you want to engage with.
it's interesting because in the United States, what we're talking about seems so far fetched. And literally, your whole business model, permission, this whole concept, this whole project idea that we're doing, um, it is follows the lead of what some other countries that have recently declared independence are doing. So look at Estonia. They declared, I think in like 95 or whatever. They have a system. It is centralized, but it's similar to this, whereas your ID card holds your data. And whenever someone wants to view your data, you actually can like sue them in court and ask them why they were able to view your data and your information. And there's some other stuff that some other properties that you're talking about here, but they were able to do it because that infrastructure didn't have like alternative agendas. It's so hard to go from the ground up and to build. This should be a standard. What we're talking about, it's not a novel thing. Permission, it's not novel in that it's like a hard concept for people to understand why it's so important. It's just that our infrastructure has been around for so long and it's built, there's no incentive to rebuild it. So now with permission, if you build it and enough people come, you're creating an alternative system that if enough advertisers come over, they will stop going to big tech. And that's like the whole point here. That's what we're doing.
Exactly. And, it's not about driving people to just permission.io. We're building the infrastructure so permission dominates Web 3.0. That's really what Web 3.0 is about, is permission, meaning data sovereignty, individuals in control of their data, individuals being compensated versus big tech. That is the essence. So we've created the crypto. We're building the technology, the tools, so any website can offer rewards for their customers granting permission. So we want to see it everywhere on the internet. It's not just on permission.io. We're building the infrastructure and the tools for it to go everywhere.
I didn't even like introduce you. Who are you, and like how did you fall down the crypto rabbit hole? What are you doing in our industry? Why are you here?
Okay,
You
well,
could be doing anything else.
I'm an old dude for this
Yeah,
industry.
but you've done so much, and you could be playing golf or hanging out. Why are you here?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've asked myself that a lot every day. But you know what? I love what I'm doing. And, I've been a 30-year entrepreneur. For people who are around in the early internet in the late 90s and the early 2000s, I built a great company called Real Age, which was doing the same thing. It was collecting data and asking permission. And we were an incredible advertising platform, and I sold it super successfully to the Hearst Corporation. And you probably all know my spokesperson and my partner, Dr. Mehmet Oz.
Oh, Dr. Oz.
Dr. Oz was my partner and spokesperson, and we had a great run.
Why
Uh,
was that not why, but did you ever feel that what you were doing back then with Real Age was before its time?
Absolutely, we were definitely a leader. I mean, we were written about everywhere. About You want to talk about data collection? Real Age has more data on you than anybody. But we never sold that data. We were a great custodian of that data. And we only connected advertisers to individuals on a permission basis. If you had high cholesterol, we would ask you permission. Do you want to hear from Pfizer about their high cholesterol products? And
I
that's
remember those days. I remember like getting emails that would kind of ask me to be targeted. When did that change? Like, I feel like targeted advertising to the point that it is till today, where it's like almost that they're listening. I feel like that's changed, and there was a huge switch over to that. And I thought there would be a little bit of pushback, but it seemed to me we were all okay with it because the products that are being sold to us, I mean, we want to buy. At the end of the day, I've bought tons of products off targeted ads.
absolutely. I mean, listen, Google just got so good.
Yeah,
Facebook
that's what it
got
is. They got
so
so good.
good. And they sucked you in. And, their products are fantastic. I don't want to, these companies are great companies, but they've gotten so big and so powerful that the tide is going to turn. I mean, it's going to turn towards real decentralization, which means individuals in control. That's what decentralization means here. Instead of 4 or 5 major platforms in control, it's going to be billions of individuals in control.
So if I'm an advertiser now and I want to like, okay, so I understand it from the consumer side of things and as an industry. And so if I'm an advertiser, how do I access the system? How do I target specific types of people? But how do you also do that where I can get like believe your metrics? I can believe what you're telling me, like you're reaching these many people without you giving me that data or like breaking the integrity of the on the other side of the user.
Well, that's where blockchain is so terrific. I
Okay.
mean, blockchain is all about transparency. Every advertiser can see exactly how many campaigns, how many people viewed their video because of the transaction is registered on the blockchain. So there's no fake metrics. I mean, for all of Google and Facebook's power, the metrics they report are 50% BS, and everybody knows it, and
Yeah.
you just accept it. Uh, but on permission, every individual is validated. Every view of an ad will be validated and recorded. So advertisers will see exactly who their audience is.
There's a lot of DeFi things going on right now, and DeFi distributed finance focuses on heavily on putting in these like capital and credit markets into the smart contracts. And I'm going a little bit on a digression here, but um, I want to bring it back because a lot of projects are now focusing on less connecting real world problems using blockchain technology and smart contracts, connecting real world problems, and instead of focusing on like this DeFi of building out these whole new products, and then everyone is coming. Do you have any thoughts on what's going on in the crypto industry now? I mean, just because you've been in the tech industry a very long time, it doesn't have to be on DeFi specifically, but what are your thoughts on our industry and the people that are in it, the people that you've met? I'm just curious, like someone who was an outsider who's now involved.
Well, it's interesting, but you know what? It's no different than any other industry. There are a gazillion fast buck artists, there are. And there's a lot of hustlers and a lot of people who want to do, come up with a white paper, do a token sale, and then disappear. I mean, that
Yeah,
there is no
we saw a
question.
lot of that in the old days.
Yeah, yeah. And but you're still seeing that. I mean, the DeFi, I mean, it's still about a white paper and a hype. A lot of it, look at it's a new industry. I saw that in the late 90s with the early internet. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody, just created .com and people threw money at you. I
Do
mean,
you like see these parallels? But good things came out of the .com bubble, right? Like good things came out of that.
exactly. And good things are coming out of crypto. I mean, I love the crypto industry. Look, I'm a radical libertarian. I believe in individual rights as a foundation. I believe in the original American ideals. We're, the founders of our country were the geniuses of history. I mean, this notion that government works for the people and that people have inalienable individual rights. I mean, and those principles have been slowly eroded over time. And, crypto has the promise of bringing those principles back and, putting power into individuals' hands and the central authorities, the central banks. I mean, central banking is the biggest boondoggle ever created in mankind. And when that blows up, I mean, it will blow up by definition. Um,
Central banking is the concept of having a central bank that will run a fractional reserve and then use that money to increase the value of the central bank or the economy in which it's in. And that concept, like, I don't dislike, but what I don't like is a centralized central bank. Rather, I believe that we could figure out a way to have uh, DAO-like decentralized central banks, and I'm working on a few different ideas and concepts about that. But I agree with you. As this like house of cards and everything the domino on the central bank, eventually you're going to see just this. Uh, what happens is it's very quickly going to be a. People wonder like how is the central bank going to. What very simply has to happen is very few people need to lose faith. And if very few people lose faith in any currency or any company or anything, and they lose faith in its future, its value, then that's where the cracks and the fissures come, and that's where things start to break and start to collapse. I'm not a fan of things breaking and collapsing because I don't want to see people hurt. I don't want to see people lose their jobs on the street. Like we saw COVID, it was really bad. So when I first got into Bitcoin, I remember meeting someone. He's like, Charlie, 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 my young son. He said, we don't want to end the Fed, my young grasshopper. We want to transcend the Fed. We create a whole new system. So that's what you're doing with permission. You're not trying to like break down the Googles. You're building a better system and people will use it.
That's exactly right. And by the way, I'm not in favor of government regulation and have the markets are beautiful things and they solve problems. And that's what we're doing. We're solving this problem. And the world, the crypto industry is solving the central banking problem. Money should be
Yes.
private.
Yes.
Money
Data
should be
money should be
private.
private.
And just like any industry.
Private but not anonymous. There's a difference, and I definitely talk about that difference. But there's definitely a difference, and privacy is very important. Anonymity is another conversation. But yeah,
I totally agree.
thank you.
And the infrastructure is being built. And when confidence breaks, it breaks.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen slowly. It happens. There's going to be a straw that breaks the camel's back. And
There's
who
always
knows?
is.
It's going to be 6 months or 6 years, but it's going to happen. I mean, COVID has accelerated money printing, fiat money printing beyond anybody's imagination. I mean, if somebody asks you what $1 trillion is, could you describe it?
No.
Well,
I
I
don't even know
can.
what that means.
Okay, everybody knows what $1 million is. It's a fancy house in most neighborhoods. Maybe not New York City, but in most places in the country, $1 million buys you a really nice house. And if you spent $1 million a day since since Jesus was born, $1 million a day, you would not even have $1 trillion.
Really?
$1 million a day for over 2,000 years, you wouldn't have $1 trillion. Yet we talk about spending $3 trillion like it's nothing.
Yeah, you can't even spend the amounts of money that we're talking about here. It's like the whole concept of money is just when these numbers become unfathomable for people and like K-shaped recovery, the haves have more and the have-nots have less. It's not good for an economy long term. when you look at countries that have a very few wealthy elite, and then there's everyone else. You don't when you have the haves and the have-nots, the gap of becoming a have-not to a have widens, and when you lose that middle class, we can't jump anymore. And your families and all our families who are immigrants off the boat who are able to come as immigrant. I'm first generation. You know, our families have to come off, and my grandfather lived on a freaking suitcase for 2 days while he waited for the job line, like to be able to get a job, and he finally got a job. I don't remember what he was doing, but I mean, and then look now he's able to buy his house 30 years later or whatever. But that American dream or that world dream, you can't have that when you have a dysfunctional system where there's no middle class, and when the haves have and the have-nots have not, it doesn't work. The whole system just breaks.
Charlie, you're so exactly right. We're becoming a banana republic. In,
Yeah, unfortunately,
in
yeah,
Mexico, 20,000 families own 95% of the country's wealth. Pretty soon the US
yeah,
is,
that's gonna
we're
happen here.
looking, it's happening here. I mean, people who have assets, people who have hard assets, real estate, art, gold, they become worth more and more and more, and stocks. Um, they become worth more and more the more money is printing. But people who work for a living and that have to live off their wages, it purchases less and less and less. They become poorer and poorer. So
Yeah,
the divide gets bigger and bigger, and it's a disaster. Central banking and what's happening now is going to lead to a disaster, and people need to prepare and start owning, crypto.
there's a reason that you see like central banks and you see major companies and publicly traded companies and governments announcing that they're even adding um, they're adding um, Bitcoin and crypto in general to their like portfolios and to their sovereign wealth funds and things like that. And they've been doing it for years, just not publicly. Um, Charles, thank you so much for coming on the show today. This the this Untold Stories sponsored AMA series. I love doing it. It's a great concept. Before we end, how can my followers and our fans, how can they follow you and read what you're doing and what you're working on? What's the end off here?
Yeah, go to permission.io, create an account. Now, we're just getting started, everybody. Our market structure on our crypto is fantastic, but we just listed. You can go to permission.io, start earning, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Telegram, all the channels are available. We're going to be producing tons of content. I hope to do regular, AMAs with and video releases. So I
Awesome.
really appreciate this time and, helping us get the word out.
Awesome. I'll talk to you later.
Okay, take care.